I'm going to be making this out of this cording. It's polyester and cotton, 50% each. This color is Willow. This is discontinued, so you won't be able to find it on the website. However, there are lots of places online that you can still buy this, Amazon being one. It is more expensive than what the original price was on their website. But you can also substitute with a 1 or 2 millimeter polyester cording. The difference is going to be that this has some stretch to it where a lot of polyester cording doesn't. And that's the reason I like it so much. I really wish they wouldn't have discontinued this. This is one of my favorite things to purchase. And also this is sort of a shiny, silky look, which, you know, a lot of times you might not need that for substituting, but for this particular project, I think that the fact that this has a shine to it is what makes it work so well for this tree ornament. So I am going to start with a slip knot, and I'm using a 4.5 millimeter hook. Make your tail just a little bit longer than you might otherwise make it, but I'm going to do chain 2, and then we're going to put a bean stitch in that first stitch that you did. And the reason that I have my tail be a little bit long, because when you're working in the first stitch, it starts to get really loose and pull, and so if your tail is kind of short, then you may lose the whole thing. So that's the reason I do that. So for a bean stitch, you insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. You now have 4 loops, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. You should now have 6 loops on your hook. This is where it gets very loose right here. So yarn over and pull through all 6. And because this is getting very loose, I'm going to do 1 stitch, 1 loop at a time so that my thing doesn't come apart. Okay, that's going to be the hardest one to make just because you don't have anything to hold on to. And I'm going to tie a knot. And now that the bean stitch is completed, we're going to do the same thing for every bean stitch. Yarn over and pull through to lock it in. And that is 1 bean stitch. We will chain 1, turn our work. And so we're just going to continue to put bean stitches in each row. And if you look at this stitch, so if we just take out this chain 1 we did, if you look at this stitch, you've got 2 loops. You've got the loop that was made from pulling through all of your 6 loops. And then right here, you've got the loop that was made by doing your chain 1 to lock it in. So when we do our bean stitches, they're going to go into the loop that was made by doing your 6 loop pull through. So chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to increase and put 2 bean stitches in this 1 bean. So remember, we're going right here. So this one that you used to lock in, this is your chain 1. That's the one you use to lock in, so we're going to go right here. Insert your hook, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through, insert your hook, yarn over, and you do that until you have 6 loops on your chain. And then yarn over and pull through all 6 loops. Yarn over and pull through to lock it in. And now we're going to do 1 more bean stitch in that same stitch right there where you did before. So insert your hook. Go through all 6 loops, yarn over and pull through. And that is your increase. And now we're going to yarn over, pull through, chain 1, turn your work, and now you can look and see where your 2 bean stitches are going to be. Never count the chain 1. That's your lock-in stitch. So this is going to be the first bean that we're going to go through. That is the chain 1, lock it in. And then here is where your other stitches are going to go. So now we're going to do another row of increases. So we're going to put 2 bean stitches there and 2 bean stitches over there. Lock it in. Now do 1 more. Okay, that is your increase of 2 bean stitches in that bean, and now this bean over here. I'm going to do increases of 2 bean stitches right there. And lock it in. Now do 1 more. Go through all loops and lock it in. That is the end of row 3. Row 4, chain 1, turn your work, and put 1 bean stitch in each bean. So we've got right there. So essentially when you look at it, each bean will have 2 loops. So you're just going to skip a loop. So then go here, you're going to skip this one, go here, skip this one, go here, skip this one, and go right in there. Whenever you're doing a row after an increase, the one at the very end is going to be sort of leaning over to the side just a little bit. So you want to make sure that you're putting that in the right spot. Lock it in, go to the next bean. And the next one. And the last one right over there, the edge. That's the end of row 4. Okay, at the end of row 4, we will chain 1 and turn our work, and we will repeat the same thing for row 5, where each bean stitch gets 1 bean stitch. Lock it in. That's the end of row 5. For row 6, we're going to repeat the same row. With 1 bean stitch in each bean. And that is the end of row 6. And for row 7, chain 1, turn your work. We're going to do some increases on this row. So of the 4 bean stitches we have here, the first one is going to have an increase, so 2 beans in that one, and then the 2 middle ones will have 1 bean each, and then the 4th one will have 2 beans for a total of 6. So here in the first one, do your first bean, lock it in, and then, oh, I think I went over my stitch. Okay, do your first bean and get that locked in, and then do another bean in the exact same space. Lock it in and go to the next bean. Put 1 in there. And put 1 in the next one. And then we're going to put 2 in the last one, so that right there on the end. This one is going to be a little bit tight, especially when you get to the second bean. Lock that in, and now go into that same space. And at the end of row 7, you should have 6 beans. Now we're going to move to row 8, chain 1, turn your work. We're going to put 1 bean stitch in each bean for a total of 6 beans in this row. When you get to the end of this row, since the previous row had an increase, when you get to the end, it might be a little tricky to see it. So just make sure that you're getting all the way to the very last stitch. And that is the end of row 8. Whoops. See if I can grab that without letting go. Okay, lock that in. That is the end of row 8. Chain 1, turn your work. Row 9 is going to be the same as row 8. 1 bean stitch in each bean all the way across for a total of 6. Okay, that is the end of row 9. Row 10 is the same thing. So chain 1, turn your work, and put 1 bean stitch in each bean stitch for a total of 6. And that is the end of row 10. Lock that in. My yarn has a knot in it where they put 2 strands together. That's really irritating. For row 11, chain 1 and turn your work. And row 11 is going to be increases as well. So the first bean gets an increase of 2 beans, and the last bean gets an increase of 2 beans, and all the ones in the middle get 1. Hopefully that knot won't show too bad. So that's the first bean, and now I'll do another bean in the same stitch. And then now we're going to do 1 bean. And this last bean stitch, we'll get 2. Lock that in, and that is the end of row 11. And now for row 12, we will chain 1, turn our work, and put 1 bean stitch in each bean for a total of 8. And this is the last row that will have bean stitches in it. Okay, make sure you get that last one over there on the edge. And that is the end of row 12. And to complete the project, we're going to do a slip stitch across the bottom. You don't need to chain 1 for this, just turn your work and put a slip stitch across the bottom. And this time our slip stitches, they're not going to just go where the bean stitches went, they're going to be in every stitch. So if you look down here, previously you would have skipped this one and gone here, skipped that one and gone here for putting a bean stitch. But to do the slip stitches, we're going to use every single stitch all the way across. You're not going to put a slip stitch in the stitch that was, if you look right here, this right here is the last stitch where you locked it in. But if you try to put a slip stitch in there, it's going to just come unraveled because this comes out of there. So instead, you go to the next one. Don't do your slip stitch too tight or it's going to make the bottom of your ornament be misshapen because it'll pull the stitches in. So just kind of do it a little bit loose. That's the last of your slip stitch. Now we're going to cut. And I'm going to yarn over, pull through. And because this yarn is very slippery because it's so silky, I like to lock it in a couple of times with a little knot. If you're using cotton or something like that, you may not need to do this. But I have had projects made out of this that have come unraveled before. So then I'm going to hide my beginning and end tails into my project. So I'm going to put a crochet needle on here. And just going to weave it in. And then weave in the other side. You can just weave it in anywhere you want. This project has a lot of different loops going every which way, so it's pretty easy to hide something inside of it. Okay. This is where my knot is right here, from where it had a knot in it. I'm going to cut that. So this next part is where you can kind of customize however you want. You can just put a ornament hook up here if you want. You can just loop a piece of ribbon or any way you want to put a loop up there to hang it on the tree. What I'm going to do is I want to add this ball to the top. So I'm going to take this, it's kind of like a raffia ribbon, like a paper straw ribbon. And I'm going to just cut a piece of that. And then just going to loop it at the top. And then I want to get it inside the ball. But I need both pieces in there together. I'm not sure if I can do this at the same time. One up there. Then I'm going to tie this in a knot. And then I'm going to make it just a knot where it's big enough to loop on as an ornament. You can tie a bow. I am terrible at tying bows, so I'm not going to do that. But if you know how to tie bows, that would be a really good thing to put at the top. I'm just going to make a knot. And then trim the excess off. But you can customize the top of that. And that's it. I just wanted to show that I did make an example with a cotton yarn, and this is 100% mercerized cotton, and this color is bay leaf. Mercerized cotton is a little bit stiffer than regular cotton. However, you can see where this is very stiff, where the cotton is super loose. So if you try to put a ball at the top of it, the ball is going to be heavier than the entire ornament itself. So I don't think that works very well. But if you don't want to put the ball at the top and you just want an ornament that you're going to put an ornament hook or something like that at the top, then that would work well. You could also use 2 pieces of the cotton yarn together and use the same pattern to make it thicker. Also, if you use cotton yarn just 1 strand, it will be smaller. This is the same pattern with the same size hook, and it is a little bit smaller. The mercerized cotton also has a little bit more of a shine to it than regular cotton does, so that does help the look. I personally like the look of the cording, how the loops are not all straight. You can see if you make it with cotton, the bean stitches really show where you can see the bean stitches well, which usually you want that. But I think for this project, having the loops all be not flat makes it look more like a tree. But you can, pick whichever preference you like.